This video was from 2025, not 2026. May 13, 2025. Leaving the hospital and returning to the hospital on the buses.
Imagine paying $15 a month, right? Just to support your favorite local indie jazz band.
Right, like a band you actually go see in person.
Exactly. But then you find out the streaming platform basically took your money and just handed it directly to Taylor Swift.
Yeah, which is a pretty wild realization for most people.
It really is. And the thing is, in 2026, that is exactly what is happening to your wallet. I mean, we just assume that when we pay for a service, our money supports the things we actually consume.
Well, yeah, that's the logical assumption.
Right.
But in the world of digital music streaming, your monthly fee is just part of this massive, opaque wealth transfer.
Right.
It's this systemic redistribution of wealth that, honestly, most users are completely unaware of.
Completely.
Because the architecture of modern streaming just wasn't built to facilitate a direct relationship between you and the artist. It was built to satisfy the market share demands of the major record labels.
Which brings us to the stack of research on the table today. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone.
Glad to be here.
So we are looking at this deeply researched 10-point manifesto, and it makes a claim that I think most people in 2026 would find completely counterintuitive.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. It claims that abandoning streaming platforms to buy physical CDs is not just some act of nostalgia.
No, not at all.
It's actually the most technologically, economically, and psychologically sound way to consume music right now.
Yeah, and the goal of our discussion today is to really explore the mechanics behind that manifesto.
Yeah.
Because the author isn't just, romanticizing plastic discs.
Right, they're not just being a hipster about it.
Exactly. They are laying out a highly logical, ironclad framework. We're going to look at the financial engineering that dictates where your money goes.
The fragility of cloud-based digital library.
Yeah, and the cognitive toll of algorithmic curation. Plus, we'll even get into the actual psychoacoustics of audio compression.
It's a lot to cover.
It is, but by the time we trace the path from your wallet to your eardrums, the argument for stepping away from streaming and returning to physical media becomes incredibly compelling.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because, the pushback is obvious, right? I'm looking at my phone right now, and I have instantaneous access to tens of millions of songs.
Right, infinite convenience.
Yeah. So the idea of going back to an optical drive feels, like putting a landline in my kitchen.
It feels backwards.
It really does.
Yeah.
But to understand why the author of our source material is so adamant that CDs are the superior format, we have to start with the money.
We do. We need to look at what the industry calls the pro rata system.
Pro rata. Okay, so what exactly does that mean in this context?
Well, the term pro rata basically translates to proportional allocation.
Which sounds fair on paper.
It does sound fair.
Yeah.
But the application of the pro rata model in the streaming industry is fundamentally flawed if you believe your subscription fee should actually go to the artists you actively listen to.
Right, and the Source Manifesto lays out this scenario that really highlights how broken this is. Let's say you pay your premium subscription every month, right? And you spend that entire month exclusively listening to that niche local indie jazz band we mentioned.
Just them on repeat.
Exactly. Logically, you'd think your $15 minus whatever cut the platform takes obviously goes to that jazz band.
Right.
But the document explains that your money bypasses them entirely. It goes to the artists with the absolute highest volume of total platform streams.
Yeah. And to understand why that happens, you really have to look at the licensing negotiations that took place when streaming platforms first launched.
Oh, right, like a decade or more ago?
Exactly. The platforms desperately needed the massive catalogs of the big three major record labels just to attract users.
They needed the hits.
Right. And the major labels knew they held the leverage, so they dictated the payout structure. Under pro rata, a platform does not take your specific $15 and divide it by your specific streams.
Okay.
Instead, they take the subscription fees from every single user on the platform, pool all of that money into one giant digital pot, and then divide that pot based on the total percentage of overall streams across the globe.
Wow. Okay, wait. Let me see if I can map this out with an analogy just to make sure I'm wrapping my head around it.
Go for it.
So let's say I go to a local mom and pop diner down the street. I order a burger. I hand the owner $20.
That's good so far.
But instead of putting that $20 in their cash register, the diner owner is legally forced to send my $20 to the CEO of the biggest global fast food chain.
Simply because that chain sold more burgers worldwide that day.
Yes.
That is the exact mechanism of the pro rata system.
That is insane.
It is. Because a megastar like Taylor Swift or Drake accounts for a massive percentage of the total overall streams on the platform. Their label takes that corresponding percentage of the entire global revenue pool.
So a portion of your $15 goes to the top-tier pop stars, even if you never listen to a single second of their music all year.
Exactly.
Wait, so if I try to be a good patron of the arts for my local jazz scene, my wallet is basically bypassing them entirely.
Sadly, yes.
Yeah.
Your subscription is essentially a wealth transfer.
I am basically subsidizing the most famous people on earth, while the local jazz band I actually care about gets what, like a fraction of a penny?
Yeah, currently the payout per stream hovers around 0.03 to 0.005.
Wow.
To put that in perspective, an independent artist needs roughly 1 million streams a month just to earn the equivalent of a minimum wage job.
1 million streams, just for minimum wage.
Yeah. What's fascinating here is how the pro rata system effectively starves the middle class and lower class of working musicians. It funnels the capital upward to artists who already have the most lucrative touring and merchandising empires.
And this is where the source material drops its first major defense of the CD, because it starts from a place of fundamental economic fairness.
Absolutely.
When you bypass the streaming platform and purchase a CD directly from that indie jazz band, whether you buy it at the merch table after a gig or, order it through their website, you are entirely avoiding the pro rata trap.
It is a direct injection of capital.
Right.
When you buy a $15 CD, the artist sees a massive percentage of that transaction. Even after manufacturing costs, which are relatively low for CDs, the profit margin allows a band to actually fund their next recording session.
Must pay their rent.
Or fix their tour van. The author's really framing the physical CD not just as a music format, but as an economic vehicle.
I love that. An economic vehicle.
It's a targeted financial strike that funds the exact art you want to see exist in the world.
Which makes total sense. I mean, if I want the mom and pop diner to stay open, I need to make sure my money actually lands in their register.
Exactly.
But as we move into the second pillar of this manifesto, the argument shifts from who controls our money to who controls our actual music libraries.
Right, transitioning from financial control to digital control.
Because streaming has essentially tricked us into accepting a permanent rental economy, we really need to talk about the concept of true ownership.
We do. The shift from ownership to access has been, honestly, the defining technological trend of the last 15 years.
Oh, for sure. We
Yeah.
see it in software subscriptions, video streaming, and obviously music.
And the document makes a very blunt assertion here. When you rely on a streaming service, you own nothing.
Nothing at all.
You hold a temporary, highly conditional license to access files on a corporate server.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because that license is incredibly fragile.
It really is.
I look at my massive digital library, right? All these meticulously curated playlists I've spent years building, and it feels like it belongs to me.
It feels permanent.
Yeah, but the reality is I'm just looking at a mirror reflecting a database I have absolutely no control over.
And that fragility is exposed the moment a licensing agreement expires. We see this constantly.
Right.
A major record label gets into a royalty dispute with a streaming platform, and overnight, an entire decade of a band's discography just vanishes.
Just gone. The tracks on your playlist are suddenly grayed out.
Exactly. Or an artist decides they want to move to a different platform, or a smaller indie label goes bankrupt and their catalog is wiped from the servers.
It's the ultimate realization that the cloud is really just a marketing term for someone else's computer.
That's all it is.
And if you are entirely dependent on someone else's computer to access the soundtrack to your life, you are completely at their mercy.
Right. They can raise your subscription price from $15 to $20 to $30.
Or they can insert unskippable audio ads for premium users. I mean, they've done it before with other services.
Oh, they definitely have. Or, more drastically, the platform itself could lose out to a competitor and shut down its servers entirely.
And if that infrastructure collapses, or if you simply can no longer afford the rising subscription fees, you are left with zero equity.
None.
After paying hundreds or thousands of dollars over a decade, you walk away with an empty app.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, the author of our source document positions the physical CD as the ultimate antidote to this digital fragility.
Right.
A pressed optical disc is immune to corporate licensing disputes. It's immune to server outages and price hikes.
But hold on, let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
If we are talking about securing our libraries in 2026, why is a plastic disc the answer? I mean, isn't relying on a physical disc as a backup a bit archaic?
How do you mean?
Well, if I'm worried about streaming platforms deleting my music, couldn't I just buy digital downloads and back them up to a cloud drive? Or just put them on an external hard drive? Why not just use the cloud?
Well, the vulnerability with pure digital downloads is hardware degradation and ecosystem lock-in.
Ecosystem lock-in.
Okay. Yeah, think about it. Hard drives have a notorious failure rate. They are mechanical devices or flash memory cells that just degrade over time.
That's true. I've had drives crash on me.
Right. And cloud storage accounts. They get hacked, locked, or subjected to their own subscription price hikes. Remember, the cloud is still renting.
True.
And if you bought those digital files through a specific ecosystem, say Apple or Amazon, they are also wrapped in digital rights management, or DRM.
Oh, right, DRM. The code that essentially says, yes, you downloaded this file, but you can only play it on our approved devices with your verified account login.
Exactly. You don't truly own a DRM-locked file.
Yeah.
But the author specifically points to the CD as the foundational tool for a DRM-free, user-controlled environment.
Okay, so how does that work in practice?
Well, the manifesto highlights the practice of using a CD to build and maintain a VLC media library.
VLC, right.
Yeah.
The media player with the little orange traffic cone icon?
Yes, that one. VLC is a highly robust, open-source media player that operates entirely offline. It doesn't report to a corporate server. It doesn't check your DRM licenses.
Right.
By owning the physical CD, you own the ultimate, unalterable root file.
So the workflow the author is advocating for is this. You buy the CD, you put it in a drive and rip the pristine, uncompressed audio files directly to your hard drive.
Yep.
You load those into your local VLC player. Now you have the digital convenience of playing your music on your computer or your phone without an internet connection.
Exactly.
But crucially, if that hard drive fails in 5 years or your laptop gets stolen, you haven't lost your music.
Because you still have the master copy sitting on your shelf.
Right.
The pressed CD is an archival format. Under proper storage conditions, a commercially pressed CD can last for many decades.
Wow.
It far outlives the lifespan of a consumer hard drive. It basically acts as an insurance policy.
Okay, I see.
It guarantees that your VLC library can always be perfectly reconstructed from scratch. When everything is available instantly for free, or for a flat monthly fee, there is zero friction.
And without friction, there is no vetting process.
Right.
I was actually trying to think of how to visualize this psychological shift. You often hear streaming compared to an all-you-can-eat buffet, but I don't think that quite captures the exhaustion of it.
It's a better analogy.
It's more like walking into a massive supermarket aisle that has 10,000 different brands of toothpaste.
Oh, that's good.
Right. The sheer volume of choice creates cognitive overload. You experience decision fatigue, and ultimately you just grab whatever is at eye level or whatever has the brightest packaging. You aren't making a deliberate, considered choice.
I love that analogy. It's the paradox of choice. Psychological studies consistently show that an overabundance of options leads to anxiety and less satisfaction with the final decision.
Exactly. Streaming is a cheap, endless buffet where you eat everything but taste nothing.
Yeah, and in the context of streaming, this manifests as passive listening.
Passive listening.
Right. You click on an algorithmically generated chill vibes playlist, and the music just washes over you as background noise.
Yeah, I do that all the time while I'm working.
We all do.
Yeah.
But the platform isn't optimizing for your deep emotional resonance with the music.
Yeah.
It is optimizing for time on app.
Oh, wow. Of course.
The algorithm wants you sufficiently pacified so you don't hit pause, which allows them to serve you more tracks and gather more behavioral data.
That makes perfect sense. The Source Manifesto identifies this exact phenomenon. It states that streaming exposes you to millions of songs you do not like.
Yes.
You are constantly subjected to filler, auto-playing similar tracks, and sponsored artist placements. But the author suggests a radical countermeasure to this.
Financial conservatism.
Right. Buying a CD is ordering a specific, expensive dish you savor every bite because you invested in it.
Exactly. The author posits that the act of spending money, specifically $15 or $20 on a single album, forces you to become a rigorous curator of your own taste.
Because you have a limited budget.
Right. You have to actively research, sample, and critically evaluate an album before you commit capital to it.
The friction of the purchase is the filter.
Yes.
If I have to spend my hard-earned money on this physical disc, I am going to make absolutely sure it is something that moves me. I am erecting a massive barrier to entry for my own ears.
And the result of that barrier is a collection completely devoid of filler. I mean, if you look at someone's streaming library, it's bloated with thousands of saved tracks they just skip past.
Oh, my library's terrible for that. Skip, skip, skip.
Right. But if you look at a curated shelf of 50 physical CDs, every single disc represents a deliberate, intentional choice.
Yeah.
The author embraces the fact that this means you will listen to significantly less music overall.
Which flies in the face of everything the tech industry has taught us over the last 2 decades. We have been conditioned to believe that more is always better. Millions of songs, infinite scrolling.
But the argument here is that artificial scarcity, a scarcity imposed by your own budget and your own discerning taste, actually creates.
Physically walk over to the shelf, select the spine, open the jewel case, remove the disc, place it in the tray, and press play.
It's an active process.
You are committing to a block of time. And while that music plays, you have the booklet in your hands. You're reading the lyrics exactly as the artist intended them to be paced.
You're fully engaged.
You are looking at the studio credits, realizing that the same session drummer played on 3 of your favorite albums. You are seeing the thank you notes, which gives you context about the artist's community and mindset at the time of recording.
And that contextual data is vital. An album is conceived by the artist as a holistic package. The typography, the paper texture, the photography, all of these elements are designed to inform the emotional tone of the audio.
Right.
By engaging with the artifact, you are respecting the complete visual intent of the creator. It transforms music from just background noise into a multisensory, focused activity.
I completely see the value in that deep, immersive experience, but I have to play devil's advocate again and bring up a massive point of friction for the modern consumer.
Okay, let's hear it.
If the core philosophy here, what we discussed in the curation segment, is that we must strictly vet our music and refuse to waste money on filler.
Right.
What happens when an artist releases an album that is mostly garbage?
Ah, the classic music industry problem.
Exactly. We know the old model. An artist has 2 incredible, catchy singles, and the label pads the rest of the CD with 8 terrible tracks just to justify selling it for $20.
Right.
Doesn't the entire physical CD argument collapse if I'm forced to buy filler just to own the 2 songs I actually want?
Well, the author of the manifesto anticipates this exact dilemma. They know the reality of the music industry. And their solution, formulated specifically for the year 2026, is an incredibly elegant hybrid approach.
Okay.
They don't suggest blindly buying commercial CDs just for the sake of it. They outline a specific workflow, utilizing artist-friendly digital storefronts and the modern CDR.
Okay, this blew my mind when I read it in our sources. It's essentially creating the ultimate physical mixtape.
It really is.
The author says if an album only has 2 good songs, you don't buy the physical CD. Instead, you go to a platform like Bandcamp or 7 Digital, you purchase only those 2 specific tracks digitally, and then you burn them onto a blank CDR.
Yeah, and to understand why this is such a powerful strategy, we have to look at the economics of the platforms. The author specifically names. Let's look at Bandcamp.
Okay.
We discussed the pro rata trap of Spotify and Apple Music, where your money is pooled and sent to the biggest stars.
Right, the Taylor Swift diner analogy.
Right. Well, Bandcamp operates on a completely different model. They are a direct-to-fan storefront. When you buy a digital track on Bandcamp, roughly 80 to 85% of your money goes immediately and directly to the artist.
Ah, so by purchasing the individual digital tracks there, you are still honoring the very first pillar of the manifesto. Direct financial support for the artist, bypassing the pro rata system entirely.
Precisely. You are injecting capital directly to the creator. Furthermore, you are honoring the curation pillar. By only purchasing the 2 tracks you genuinely vetted and loved, you are maintaining your financial conservatism. You are refusing to subsidize the label's filler tracks.
But then we get to the physical manifestation, burning a CDR in 2026.
Yeah.
I imagine a lot of people hearing this are thinking, where do I even buy blank CDs? Do laptops even have disk drives anymore? I mean, is this process too labor-intensive for the modern listener?
Well, it does require intentionality. You likely have to buy an external USB optical drive, which are inexpensive, and a spindle of archival quality blank CDRs.
Right.
But the friction is the point. The author is advocating for the modern manifestation of the mixtape, elevated to a principle of permanent archiving. This workaround is the perfect synthesis of digital convenience and physical permanence.
So you are essentially becoming the A&R executive, the curator, and the record pressing plant for your own bespoke physical library.
Exactly. When you take the time to acquire the pristine digital files, sequence them, and burn them onto a physical disc, you are creating a curated masterwork.
Yeah.
You are bypassing the traditional album format entirely and creating physical artifacts that consist of 100% pure vetted signal with zero noise. The CDR becomes a bespoke, physical manifestation of your highly vetted taste.
It completely neutralizes the album filler argument. Your shelf isn't filled with commercial albums you only half like. It's filled with custom-burned discs that represent the absolute pinnacle of your personal taste.
Right.
You get the direct financial support of digital combined with the offline permanence of physical media. It's brilliant.
It's a very robust system.
It is. But there is one final frontier we have to cross to fully validate this manifesto. We've talked about the money, the ownership, the curation, and the artifact.
Now we have to talk about the literal physics of sound.
Yes. We need to dive into the audiophile debate, the fidelity of the formats, and why the physical format fundamentally alters what hits your eardrums.
This is a great section. The author approaches the technical aspects of audio fidelity with a surprising amount of nuance.
They really do.
They don't rely on the stereotypical elitist format snobbery that you often hear in audiophile circles. They actually break down the science of compression algorithms in human hearing.
And the document explicitly states that the audio quality of a CD or WAV or FLAC files usually surpasses streaming.
Yes.
But then the author gets into the weeds with file formats, WAV, FLAC, and the 320 kilobps MP3. And I admit I can get confused by audio jargon. For a lot of listeners, this alphabet soup of file extensions can be intimidating.
It can be.
FLAC, WAV, 320 kilobps. Is this just snobbery, or is there a difference? Let's break down the mechanism of how music actually travels from the studio to our ears.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. When an artist is in the recording studio, the microphones capture analog sound waves, which are then converted into digital data by analog to digital converters.
Right.
The resulting files are massive, containing every single microscopic fluctuation in air pressure captured in that room. The standard format for these raw, uncompressed master files is typically WAV.
So a WAV file is essentially the entire unadulterated sonic picture. It is a massive file size because it holds 100% of the data.
Correct. Now, a standard commercial CD is pressed using exactly this uncompressed data. When you buy a CD, you are acquiring a perfect one-to-one lossless replica of the studio master. There is no missing information. It represents the absolute ceiling of digital audio fidelity.
Okay, but the author also mentions a strong preference for FLAC files. Where does FLAC fit into the hierarchy?
So FLAC stands for Free Lossless Audio Codec.
Okay.
The easiest way to conceptualize FLAC is to think of it like a ZIP file for a Word document.
Wait, like a ZIP file?
Yeah, exactly like a ZIP file for audio. The FLAC algorithm mathematically packs the audio data more efficiently, cutting the file size roughly in half, which is great for saving hard drive space.
Oh, that's smart.
But crucially, when your media player plays the FLAC file, it perfectly unpacks the data in real time. It restores 100% of the original information.
So it's space-saving, but mathematically identical upon playback. FLAC and WAV, and by extension the CD, are all lossless. They are perfectly preserved.
Exactly.
But we don't stream lossless WAV files usually because they are too huge. That brings us to the MP3.
Right. This is where we get into psychoacoustics. The MP3 format was developed in the late 80s and 90s by the Fraunhofer Institute because internet bandwidth was so narrow that downloading a massive WAV file was nearly impossible.
I remember those days. Dial-up internet?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They had to figure out how to shrink an audio file by 90% without making it sound terrible.
How do you delete 90% of a song and still have it sound like the song?
By exploiting the biological limitations of the human brain.
Wow, really?
Yeah. The MP3 is a lossy compression algorithm. It relies on a phenomenon called auditory masking. Basically, if there is a very loud sound in a track, say a massive crash cymbal, your brain physically cannot process a very quiet sound occurring at the exact same millisecond, like the subtle scrape of a guitar string.
Oh, that makes sense.
So the MP3 algorithm analyzes the audio in real time, identifies the data your brain probably won't perceive anyway, and permanently deletes it.
It literally throws the data away forever to save space.
Yes. Now, the author of our manifesto demonstrates incredible intellectual honesty here. They acknowledge the scientific consensus regarding the highest quality tier of MP3, which is encoded at a byte rate of 320 kilobytes per second, or kbps.
Right.
At 320 kilobps, the MP3 algorithm is operating very gently. It throws away a minimal amount of data.
And the author notes that most experts agree this 320 kilobps file is just as good as a CD for the average person.
The data supports that.
Right.
In rigorous double-blind listening tests, even professional audio engineers struggle to reliably distinguish a 320 kilobit MP3 from a lossless CD master.
Really? Even the pros?
Yeah, unless you are in a perfectly treated acoustic room listening on $10,000 studio monitors, the human ear simply isn't sensitive enough to detect the missing data.
Okay.
The author admits they're perfectly fine listening to 320 kilobit MP3s, even though they prefer the psychological comfort of having the lossless FLAC backup.
So let me stop you right there, because if the author admits that a high-quality MP3 sounds essentially identical to a CD, doesn't that destroy the argument against streaming? Well, if Spotify or Apple Music can just stream me a 320 kilobps MT3, why do I need the CD?
Because of the fatal underlying mechanism of the streaming industry, dynamic bandwidth allocation.
Dynamic bandwidth allocation.
Yes. The author delivers the knockout punch with this line.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, if the MP3 file is lower than 320 kilobps, the degradation of the file can be noticed. And that is the exact vulnerability of streaming.
Let's explore the economics of bandwidth for a company like Spotify. I mean, they have hundreds of millions of active users.
Right.
Sending massive, high-quality audio files to all of those users simultaneously requires colossal server power and massive payouts to cloud infrastructure providers like Amazon Web Services. Bandwidth is their highest operational cost.
Exactly. So to maintain their profit margins, the streaming platforms use dynamic throttling.
Throttling. Okay, so what does that look like on my phone?
By default, the app on your phone is constantly monitoring your internet connection. If you are driving and your cellular signal drops, or if you are on a congested Wi-Fi network, the platform will automatically and silently drop the bitrate of the audio stream to keep the music playing without buffering.
It drops it from 320 kilobps down to 256 or 128 or even 96 kilobps.
And when the bitrate drops that low, the MP3 algorithm has to start brutally hacking away at the audio data to keep the file size small.
It's just deleting stuff left and right.
Yeah. It's no longer just deleting the imperceptible sounds. It starts deleting crucial harmonic information.
It's like buying a state-of-the-art, incredibly expensive 4K television, right?
Okay.
The director shot the movie in pristine 4K, the actors look incredible, but the streaming service decides your internet is a bit slow, so they heavily compress the video feed.
Right.
By the time it hits your expensive screen, the image is blocky, the colors are muddy, and it looks like you were watching a VHS tape from 1995. You're watching a VHS tape on a 4K TV.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
That visual degradation translates directly to the auditory experience. When an MP3 is heavily compressed, you experience a collapse of the soundstage.
A collapse of the soundstage.
Yeah, the high-end frequencies, the shimmer of the cymbals, the breath and the vocal, they start to sound metallic and swishy, like they are underwater.
Oh, I've definitely heard that.
The low-end bass frequencies become muddy and lose their punch. The entire mix sounds claustrophobic and harsh.
And the insidious part is you, the listener, often have no idea this is happening.
No, you don't.
The app doesn't flash a warning sign saying, "We are currently ruining the mix to save server costs." You just subconsciously register that the song doesn't hit as hard as it used to.
Right.
You feel less engaged with the music, but you don't know why.
But the physical CD, or the lossless files ripped from that CD, never throttle you. The CD is completely agnostic to your internet connection.
Doesn't care if you're on Wi-Fi or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is agnostic to the platform's quarterly profit margins and their server bills.
When you put a CD in the drive or play the FLAC file from your local hard drive, you are guaranteeing a baseline of perfection.
Right.
You are enforcing an uncompromising standard. The CD delivers the lossless master file exactly as the artist approved it in the studio 100% of the time.
Wow.
The final conclusion firmly backs the author here. Streaming simply cannot guarantee that consistent fidelity. It sacrifices your audio quality at the altar of uninterrupted access.
That is such a powerful point. Let's take a massive step back and look at the territory we have covered today.
Yeah.
Because this 10-point manifesto from 2026 is truly a paradigm shift.
It really is.
We entered this discussion with the ingrained societal assumption that digital streaming was the absolute peak of technological convenience. But by breaking down the actual mechanisms of that convenience, we've revealed the massive hidden costs.
It is a system designed to extract maximum value from both the listener and the creator.
Right.
It prioritizes the platform's dominance and the major labels' market share over the actual sustainability of the art form. So, by making the deliberate choice to step away from streaming and buy physical CDs in 2026, you are executing a series of incredibly powerful compounding actions. Let me recap this.
Go for it.
First, you are routing your capital directly away from the pro rata trap. You stop subsidizing the megastars and put your $15 directly into the hands of the working musicians who actually move you.
Second, you are securing a permanent physical root file for your media library. You establish a DRM-free stronghold, ensuring your VLC collection can never be wiped out by a revoked corporate license, a server outage, or a unilateral price hike.
Third, you are erecting a barrier of financial conservatism, escaping the exhausting algorithmic overload of the toothpaste aisle. You force yourself to curate your taste, guaranteeing a 100% hit rate of quality for your ears, which cultivates a deeper, more profound relationship with the music you do own.
Fourth, you reclaim the tactile, multi-sensory ritual of music consumption. You engage with the artist's visual and contextual intent by holding the artifact and reading the liner notes, moving from passive background listening to active presence.
Fifth, you utilize brilliant hybrid workarounds, leveraging ethical platforms like Bandcamp and the modern CDR to create bespoke, filler-free physical masterworks.
And finally, you guarantee an uncompromising baseline of audio fidelity. You completely bypass the unpredictable, profit-driven bandwidth throttling of streaming services, ensuring you hear the lossless studio master exactly as it was meant to be heard, every single time.
It really is an airtight framework. The author of our source document hasn't just written a defense of an older format. They have authored a comprehensive survival guide for navigating the modern digital landscape.
Absolutely.
They have proven that the newest technology isn't inherently the best technology when you factor in economic fairness, true ownership, and the psychological health of the listener.
I completely agree with the author's conclusions. The manifesto demonstrates that champions of physical media in 2026 are not Luddites clinging to the past.
Not at all.
They are the most informed, intentional consumers in the market. They have simply recognized that the convenience of streaming is a Trojan horse.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a broader concept to mull over. We have spent this entire time unpacking how the convenience of infinite digital streaming has subtly, almost invisibly, cheapened our relationship with music,
Right.
and how demanding a physical artifact actually restores the value of the art.
It does.
If that logic holds true for the music you listen to, you have to wonder what other convenient digital subscriptions in your life, whether it is your movies, your video games, your software, or even your personal photographs stored in the cloud. What else are you merely renting?
That's a scary thought.
And how might the illusion of endless, frictionless access be quietly separating you from the very things you actually love?
Something to really think about.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.